How's it going, guys? I am going to be meeting with one of my favorite vloggers today, Pinoy Floyd. We are going to be talking about how he was able to move to the Philippines at such a young age over here. We got to catch up recently, and I'm going to be on his channel showing a bit of a condo tour, so make sure and go check out his channel as well. But let me go find where he is, and let's hop into the video. Floyd, great to have you on the channel.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to your channel, John.
Great. So I really enjoyed your videos and seeing you walk around and life here in the Philippines. But I'm really curious, what was life like for you before you got to the Philippines? Where were you living and what were you doing?
Yes, that's a great question. So for those who don't know, I am from Houston, Texas, and that's where I was living. Originally born in New Orleans, and then me and my family moved to Katrina, and I spent half of my life growing up in Louisiana, and the other half of my life, my teenage years, early 20s, growing up in Texas. And so that's what life was like for me. I was, growing up, middle school, high school, graduated, and then got into real estate. Been doing real estate for 10 years now and made the transition from living in Houston to now living in the Philippines.
So I definitely want to talk more about that transition, but tell me, how old are you now?
So I am 31.
Man, you are young. You're making me feel old over here, Floyd.
I got some gray hair in my beard.
All right. That's helping me. I feel a little younger now. Of course, if I had any hair, I don't know what color it'd be anymore, but probably a lot more gray. So you were a real estate agent doing residential or commercial. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I was primarily doing residential, and then around 2019, 2020, the virus happened. Of course, world shut down, things changed, and I ended up getting into what's called apartment locating. In fact, I had a former colleague who was working at a completely different brokerage at that time called me up. I hadn't spoken to this guy in years, and he reached out to me, presented me with this opportunity to get into apartment locating, and it just felt like the perfect fit. I mean, things were going crazy back then. Sometimes people were freaking out about you door knocking and reaching out to them to try to help them sell their home. So because things shut down and things slowed down, I noticed a shift in the residential market. Obviously, people were still buying and selling homes, but I kind of felt out of place. I didn't really know what to do then, and this opportunity popped up. People were still renting apartments and moving into apartments. And so I figured, hey, why not get into this? This is something I could do at home. And that was really the aspect that I was sold on. It wasn't just the fact that, I was helping renters. It was just the fact that I could do something that was home.
So I'm very interested to know how you made the transition between working in Houston to working over here in the Philippines. There's so many guys of a wide variety of ages that are sitting at home in the US or Europe or wherever they might be thinking, man, I'm 40 or I'm 50 and I haven't been able to figure out how to make it over the Philippines. And I think your story is so interesting because you're 31 and you've made that happen. But before we talk about that, what made you even think about leaving, the US and moving to, of all places, the Philippines?
There's a long story, but I'll give you the highlights. So number one, I had a very successful year working apartment locating. Mm-hmm. I mean, once again, things were shut down. People were taking a look at how, that situation was affecting them. And a lot of people had decided to move from whatever city or state that they were living in to Houston. We had this big surge of renters coming in.
If you are enjoying this video, come and join the California Expat Facebook group. It is where expats and Filipinos connect, share stories, and even make new friends. Check out the link in the comments below and look forward to seeing you over there.
Felt like there were tons of people inquiring about heading to Houston. So I had a very good year during apartment locating. And I decided to treat myself to a trip. The first place that I thought of was Puerto Rico, out of all places. So I wanted to go outside. I say outside the U.S. Obviously, I know Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, but it was the only place that was further enough to feel like I went somewhere, but so close enough to feel familiar. Unfortunately, that year, Puerto Rico had one of the worst hurricanes. And a month after, you had a pretty nasty earthquake. So Puerto Rico trip, that was fresh. One of my friends recommended South Africa. Seemed fun, seemed cool, but I had no prior knowledge of South Africa. So that was 2 points. The third place ended up being the Philippines, out of all places. And the reason why I had some familiarity to the Philippines is simply because one of my closest friends in Houston, he's Black Filipino. He had introduced me to Filipino culture through the food, so I had some surface knowledge of the Philippines. And also at that time, I hired a Filipino or Filipina virtual assistant. And so we had been, working together for at least 6 to 8 months. So, of course, you're going to chit chat about things outside of work, especially if you're trying to get to know someone and understand their world a little bit more. So we would talk about the Philippines on some of our calls, on our meetings. And I learned a lot about the Philippines in her, and it just sounded like such a cool place. So I decided this was going to be the closest. One other little tidbit of the story, I also got out of a really nasty relationship that same year. I wanted to be as far away from Texas and as far away from that environment. I wanted to just be in a completely different and new environment.
So when you came over here, were you planning on coming for a week or 2 weeks? How long did you come over here your first visit?
Yes. So I was here for 4 weeks and
good amount of time.
Great amount of time, actually. Prior to coming out here, being a newly single guy who's planning a trip to a foreign country, you want to know what the women are like. So I downloaded, I can't even remember how many dating apps. I think it was like maybe 3 or 4. And I just changed the location to the Philippines and I started chatting with Filipinos. I was surprised. Some things really clicked. I got a lot of matches. It's cool. Some things clicked with some women and some things did not click, but things really clicked with my now girlfriend. And we really started chit-chatting. So she also became a part of the reason why I came out here.
There's mostly a woman involved. So you and your now partner met before you ever flew to the Philippines for the first time. Great, great. So your first trip over here, was your plan to just kind of come over here and meet your girlfriend and see what the Philippines was like? Or did you come over here with the intention of potentially moving here?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I had no intention of moving here for my first trip. I just thought, okay, let me go out here, obviously connect with my girlfriend, we're gonna meet, I'll see how I like it, and then I'll figure it out from there. Had no intentions of moving here. It took 3 trips before I decided I could finally live here.
So if somebody would have said to you after your first trip, hey, Floyd, you got to stay in the Philippines, how would you have felt when you were first here?
Wow. Geez. I think for me, I didn't have that comfort built in yet.
Did it feel just a bit too foreign, or what was the challenge?
It felt a little too foreign. I mean, obviously, I think it's a great place. Like, I had a lot of love for the Philippines, for the food and the culture and the people in general. But yeah, it just felt too foreign. I mean,
Sure.
the idea of leaving your home country, leaving your home state, and moving to a whole different place where you don't know how things work, especially, when it comes to finding a place, visas, healthcare, like all of the general information that people really need to consider before moving somewhere. I didn't know any of this. I was just simply on travel mode, and I think I was seeing the Philippines through rose-colored glasses, and I thought, man, this place is wonderful. Wow, it's so affordable. Or this is so, affordable here. We can travel here. We can do this. But it wasn't until I started making plans to actually live here. And I had to bring out the budgeting sheet. Okay, how much is rent? What places do I need to look into? How can I rent a car? Where do I need to live here? What do I need for my visa? It's not until I started, considering all of those things on the second and third trip, and that's when things really hit me, and I realized, but I need to really plan this thing out. This is a major move.
I appreciate you sharing how that worked for you, because I think a lot of people, the way they make it sound is they just decided to move to the Philippines, and next thing you know, they were on a plane over here, and then life was beautiful. Whereas in reality, most people have a psychological shift where they're mentally preparing to come over here. It is a big deal to leave your country, where you were born, where you know the culture, where there's familiar sights, and you just know how things work. to go to a place that is totally different, thousands of miles away. And I think that a lot of people forget that experience of going through that. They just kind of skip the middle part and get to the good part with the rose-colored glasses on. So I appreciate you sharing more what that looked like practically speaking for you. But I'm curious, and especially for the guys that are still in their home country trying to figure out, how can I make this work? Thinking that they have to wait till they're 65 or 70 or whatever it might be when they retire to move over here. How did you make the finance part of it work? And especially at such a young age?
Yeah, for sure. So having a remote job was the biggest part of me being able to move over here. I don't think I would have been able to move over here any other way. I mean, I wish I could say that I made a lot of smart financial decisions in my early 20s to set myself up to live, a life of leisure, but I didn't. It is what it is. Now, the fact that I live in the Philippines now and my cost of living is a lot lower, I'm able to gain some financial leverage and build on leverage. But yeah, having a remote job, honestly, was another thing. I did not have a large savings. I don't have any passive income or any major, real estate investments or a stock portfolio. It's none of that. A lot of people assume that that's what you have to have. Yes, there are people who live in the Philippines and live overseas who have those things, but not everyone has stock portfolio, real estate, or passive income. A lot of people are living here because of their active income. So I would say for expats, digital nomads, and future retirees who are considering living abroad or living specifically in the Philippines, get active income. I think the days of living overseas with passive income, they might be behind us, because one thing that people don't consider is that inflation happens here too. Cost of living can go up here as well. There's a lot of expats that I've met with where they talk about the good old days when, 10 years ago, you can get a condo for X price and now it's this price. Or, 15 years ago, they were coming to the Philippines and the cost of living was a lot lower. So we live in a world where U.S. is not just the only place that's affected by inflation and the cost of living going up. That can also happen here.
So true.
If you're just solely relying on your passive income, you might get yourself in a situation where you're limiting yourself. But if you have active income and you have the ability to generate money every month consistently, you might not even have to touch passive income, or it might make your life a little bit easier. So I would suggest for individuals doing active income, and that comes with skill sets.
Absolutely.
With working in real estate, I was able to transition into apartment locating. I also have some skills in social media and marketing, which helps with apartment locating, and some other things that I do, like content creation. That's how I've been able to sustainably finance my life out here in the Philippines.
So I'm curious what advice you would give for, let's say there's another guy out there sitting in Houston today or wherever they might be, and they say, well, I'm not into real estate and I'm actually not sure if the job that I have today would allow me to work abroad. What would you say to someone like that to help them look at the different opportunities that might be available to make an active income while living in the Philippines?
So I know right now a lot of people are looking for remote work. It's probably one of the most searched for topics on planet Earth right now. So there's a lot of different jobs out there that are remote, but I boil it down to skill sets. And the skills that I have studied over the last couple of years that are not going to get replaced by AI anytime soon. They're not capped off oversaturation. It's high ticket sales, or anything regarding sales, tech sales, high ticket sales, anything like that. Digital marketing, I notice. So, people are learning how to run ads or use type of media buying. Doesn't seem like that space has been affected. Higher oversaturation. There's also the IT space of cybersecurity. There's also online English teaching, which is a little bit low level in terms of like the income scale. However, with the proper guidance and certifications, I know people out here making decent income, human attack as well. So these are just all things that are skill based I know in the past people have talked about things like data entry or customer service, but a lot of those base level jobs are either getting wiped away by AI or they're already done by Filipinos or maybe Indians. If they're working BPOs, I always tell people gain marketable skills because when I look at my life and I think about, gee, how did I make this happen? If I didn't have skill set, I wouldn't be able to do a lot here. And I think that's the most important, having a skill set.
I get it. So when people are preparing to move over here, a big part of what they're thinking of is how much do I actually need to make to have a good life in the Philippines? And there's videos where you might see of guys that's saying, I just need $500 a month. Other guys saying, what are you crazy? You need $2,500 a month. What would you say in your own experience as someone living in Manila? How much money do you think guys need to make to have enough to have a good life here and to be able to, maybe put 10-20% away a month for emergency savings?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, I would say from what I've seen, a lot of people that I've spoken with, and even for myself, I think like 3,000 a month, just like as a bare minimum, I should be able to live quite comfortably.
And what could you get for that? What would your monthly life look like, generally speaking?
I mean, you could afford to eat out every day if you wanted to. And you could live in BGC or Makati or Mandaluyong, and they could live in a relatively nice area. Have a decent sized one bedroom, maybe an okay sized 2-bedroom, and a pretty decent sized 1-bedroom. You could also afford to travel because living in the Philippines, those plane tickets are going to be a lot more affordable, especially if you want to go to places like Vietnam or Thailand, or even places around the Philippines. Like, I'd be so surprised by how affordable plane tickets can be. Even just a nice week-long trip in Barangay or Siargao, or even Bohol. I would say this might be, $50, $60.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Not at all. So for $3,000 a month, in your experience, you could have a great life over here in the Philippines. I could only imagine how much we would need in the U.S. to live that same life. Yes. Have to multiply that 2-3 times probably to make it happen.
You're barely getting by.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, that was about half my rent in San Francisco. So it definitely is much more affordable to live here. Well, Floyd, I know you have YouTube, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video as well. Tell people more about your channel and why you decided to start vlogging. And I got to say, you come across as the nicest guy on your videos, and it's such a pleasure to have met you recently in person and just see that you are that same very warm, friendly guy in person as well.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the compliment, seriously, and right back at you.
Thank you.
It's always great to meet like-minded individuals, and part of the reason why I started making content, number one, was just to let my family know, friends and family know more about the Philippines. Ironically, I'm a very introverted person. People don't believe this. They're going to be in the...
I wouldn't have known. Yes.
But no, I'm a very introverted person. I really don't enjoy, or at least I would say in the beginning, I didn't really enjoy making content, but I thought I have to let my friends and family know more about the Philippines because the American perception of this country is that it's a third world country. It's a poor country. That anyone would want to live here. And I think in some ways I do understand that. It's just because we don't really know what's out here. Honestly, the first time I got off the plane, I didn't know what to expect. So it was helpful to watch videos, to watch other, vloggers and content creators. I remember watching, a lot of your content and some other content creators out here when I was first planning my trip here. So that was helpful to me. And so I decided to do the same thing. Number one, to share it with my friends and family, but then it started to really take off. And I thought, well, if I found this same information valuable and useful, I should share this same information with individuals because there's probably someone he's in my position or the position that I was starting out at. He is looking for this information, but they're just unsure about, if they really want to come out here. So they need to know what life is like out here. And that's part of the reason why I enjoy sharing more about the food, the culture, the lifestyle, and then, meeting with different expats and doing condo tours or house tours, because it can help someone who's on the fence or he's thinking about the idea or playing around with the idea of living overseas. And that's how I use I think this content.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Floyd, really appreciate you being on the channel, sharing all of your experience. I know it's going to be helpful to so many, and look forward to catching up more in Manila.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, great to hear from Floyd. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, make sure and check it out in the comment below. A lot of great content on there, and he is a great guy. So I know you guys will enjoy watching his videos. As always, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Take care.